tuning into another episode of the Hole Lotta Bogeys interview series. Today, we are going to have a very special guest. It is going to be Bill Holowaty from Miura Irons and Golf Equipment. They're going to be specializing in forged irons, putters, wedges. They also make a variety of equipment. And Bill, I don't know if you want to just jump right into it, tell the viewers a little bit about yourself, and let's start off with just how you got involved with Miura.
Well, thanks for having me, guys, and I'm happy to give your listeners and viewers as much information about our product as I can. I've been involved with the Miura brand since about 2002. I was part of the original group of founders that brought the Miura brand outside Japan. The Miura family, and sometimes I think it's important to communicate that there is a Miura family. There's a Mr. Miura. There's two sons. A Miura factory located in Himeji, Japan, which is about 3 hours south of Tokyo by bullet train. And the Miura family, in some capacity, has been making forged golf clubs since 1957. My involvement with the family was hatched basically based on my time spent in Japan. I was lucky enough to play professional hockey in Japan, and
wow, that's awesome.
Ended up doing hockey schools in Japan every summer. And during that time when I was in Japan, and usually in August, one of the kids that we were teaching in the hockey school, his dad was good friends with Mr. Miura. So we were lucky enough, we were golfers. We got to go to the Miura factory, then. I was a gearhead even before I joined the company. And when I was able to tour the factory, see golf clubs being made. And at that time, the Miura family was doing a lot of OEM work on behalf of other manufacturers. It was just the greatest time ever. So at that time, being able to see the process up close, we never really, and I say we, the original founders, never really thought that there was an opportunity outside Japan. But over the years and continued visits to the factory and getting to know the family, there became an opportunity. And Miura Golf was born in 2003. And our brand, as you know and have seen, has grown significantly, specifically over the last 5 or 6 years, with a new group coming on board under the 8 a.m. golf umbrella. And it continues to be, I'm as excited about the brand today as I was, over 20 years ago.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great to hear. Definitely awesome. I think one of the things too that you started to touch on that we really wanted to talk about was the fact that Miura is a family business with Mr. Miura, his two sons, and every single iron that comes through the factory gets touched by one of them at some point. And that is something that I know no other golf company really can say. And especially in the sense of been in business and doing this type of manufacturing since 1957, with Mr. Miura starting making clubs as early as 16, I've heard, it's really impeccable stuff and really cool.
Yeah, as Joe hit on, that's definitely something we wanted to touch on, because it's incredible when we heard that, you know what I mean? Like, it gives the club such a personal feel, even though, you know what I mean, you're pumping out a lot of product. Each club is touched by the original owner or one of his sons, like you said. That's really awesome.
Yeah, and I think that, the manufacturing process, specifically the Miura manufacturing process, which doesn't lend itself to mass production, means that, at every step of the proprietary process, there's Miura craftsmen with hands-on, whether it's stamping in grooves, whether it's, putting a toe profile on the head, whether it's the finishing aspect. It's not a production line in the sense of being automated and done by machinery. There's hands-on. The Miura family, as you mentioned, intimately involved in every part of the process. We take a lot of pride in the fact that literally each one of those, Shinya Miura, Yoshitaka Miura, and Miura-san himself, literally could walk you through and deliver the specifics of each of the 14 steps by themselves. And that says a lot. I mean, in this day and age, of mass production, there tends to be maybe a little bit of a disconnect between the executive side of a company and the manufacturing side of the company, in the sense that you leave the manufacturing to the experts and you leave the running of the company to the experts. But in this case, and to your point, the Miura family is involved in every aspect of it. So Mr. Miura still occupies the #1 chair on the grinding line. His son Yoshitaka is right next to him. And Shinya Miura, the president, is either designing, fitting, or overseeing the initial forge part of the first strike. So you're right on the money. I think it probably goes without saying that we're unique in that regard, but very proud of the fact that the legacy of the company is going to be very strong.
For sure. Yeah, that's something you don't get from any other company, knowing that, one of the 3 founders actually had their hands on the club, you know what I mean, that you were able to order online and have come in. It's amazing. I just can't get over it, to be honest.
Yeah. And to another point, you don't see it as often lately, but in my years at the factory, you might even see Mrs. Miura taping off club heads pre-sandblast or something. So yeah, it truly is a family business. And make no mistake, I mean, we're operating, with or at or near capacity, given the growth of our company. And not only do you have the Miura family there, but the family business which they operate means that everyone in that factory is viewed as family. So although you might not get DNA from the Miuras from a specific Miura on your clubs, you can be assured that their eyes were on everything that went through that factory.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Incredible. Shows the passion that the family has for golf too. Definitely for the
sure.
game,
For sure. And while we're on the topic of the process with these irons and bringing them to fruition, and all the clubs for that matter, there's the 3 main steps in the process to bringing a club to fruition, being forging, grinding, and polishing. In that forging process, most club manufacturers are going to strike the iron twice. And to my understanding, you guys are able to do that 3rd strike in the process to kind of eliminate any possibilities for gaps and just making the tightest steel that you can really provide to give that signature Miura feel that you're really not going to get anywhere else. And that's also one of those things that I thought, I don't know if there's anything you wanted to talk about in that regard, just because it's one of a kind in Miura. So
yeah, definitely.
Great question. And one of certainly the talking points that when I get the opportunity to talk about specifics, I like to reference. The 3rd strike, which happens after the club head at the 1st strike, has cooled down again. Initial strike is around 1200 degrees, but as it gets to the 3rd strike, it has cooled down and then reheated again. And to your point, you're exactly right. That 3rd strike is able to manipulate the grain structure to make it what we believe is the tightest in the industry. What does it mean? I do in my discussions with dealers and distributors, club fitters and customers, I paint a picture in the theater of their mind. On one side, you might have a glass jar filled with marbles. That would represent the grain structure of a forged club. For the most part uniform, but you can imagine the little gaps, voids, and spaces between those marbles. When you hit the club with that, with that grain structure, there is a little vibration within within the club head that transfers up the shaft into your hands and provides the feel. It's solid without a question. The Miura grain structure would resemble a glass jar filled with sand. So no voids, no gaps within there. When you strike the ball with the Miura club head, there is no vibration within the club head. That translates up the shaft into the grip. And what is often described as buttery or soft in a forged iron, in the Miura, we like to say that those are great adjectives, but what you're really feeling is solid.
Yeah.
Solid translates, a punch in the arm as opposed to a slap on the arm. It ensures that what you feel, that uniqueness, that epiphany that people sometimes have when they hit a Miura club, where they say, I've been playing golf for X amount of years and I've never felt something like that. That's what they're describing. So very, very unique to our brand, we believe, and certainly what I think gives a little clearer picture about why Miura feels different. And the great thing about this is whether you're playing our MB 101 blade, or whether you're playing the MC 502 just recently came out, or whether you'll play the new CB 302, which will be released later this year, you're going to feel the same thing. It's not unique to a blade iron. It's what you feel throughout our lineup.
Wow. Definitely. Yeah. And anyone who's viewing this, or anyone who's used your product, and they say like, oh, nothing really feels like this, and it's literally because it's made differently. You know what I mean? You guys literally do a whole proprietary process, a different forging process, and that third strike. It's incredible. It's definitely awesome to hear. And like I said, if anybody's ever felt a Miura iron, it's literally because it's made differently.
Yeah. And we're really proud of the fact that, and you will have seen it, and you'll continue to see more and more little vignettes or videos, photos from the factory that give you some insight into, the manufacturing process, what makes it different. And we're really proud of that fact that, we're able to open the doors. There is a Miura factory, and that's something that I think golfers can really take pride in the fact with their Miura irons that they know where they came from, they know the manufacturing process, and they become the mavens, the ambassadors, the best salespeople we have, and that's something again we're proud of as well.
Definitely.
Yeah. And I think all the customization aspects on the website too, for the customer to go give their specs for their specific set of irons, that's going to also in turn just like boost up your confidence when you're standing over the ball, knowing that club was made for you. It's just countless things like that come into play. And it's not to mention the fact you guys have a BB&F, the Boyd Blade and Ferrule Co. Deal, kind of where you can go even customize the color ferrule that you're going to have on your iron. So it really is like personalized for you, made for you, and nothing's probably going to feel better for you.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, we work, whether it's with custom club fitters, small independent fitters around, whether it's the top fitting companies, be it True Spec Golf, be it Club Champion Golf, Cool Clubs. We have relationships and have had relationships with all of them for years. I mean, custom club fitting, I think, is a huge part of the business. That to work, Mr. Miura would tell you that he can give you the head, but if you don't have a shaft, a grip, a lie angle, a length that works for you, then potentially you're not getting the most out of your iron, whether it's Miura or any other iron. So there's lots of options. That is not to say that a stock standard set of clubs can't work for you, but to get certainly the best out of your equipment, whether you're buying shoes, whether you're buying a suit, something that's made for you, fit to you, is always going to, feel better, look better, and perform better.
Yeah, 100%. And one other thing that I thought was really cool was in the video that Eric Anders Lang come in to tour the factory in Himeji, Japan. hearing about kind of the history of the area in the sense of just a long-standing history with the Japanese stainless steel there and the forging of samurai swords back in the day. It kind of gave me like just like a it's a good example of the natural progression of an area, kind of, it's just the next version of the newer blade, the blade iron instead of the sword. And I think it's just really cool to see that and kind of just keeping that heritage alive in the area and not forgetting about the fact that that was a stainless steel hub for forging in the area, and probably world class as well.
Wow. I'm very impressed with your knowledge, because you're exactly right. In fact, the first forged golf clubs out of Japan were handcrafted by a samurai sword craftsman. The steel region of Japan, we'd be able to say, for our Canadian viewers and listeners, Hamilton's sort of the steel hub, Pittsburgh in the US. So, it's that type of region. And the samurai sword craftsmen, they had the ability to create these swords that had mystical qualities attached to them based on their skill and technique, and that's evolved into certainly golf clubs. I think it's also really important to know, at one point in time there were a dozen or more small foundries in Himeji, which is the city where the Miura factory is located. There was about a dozen small factories that were producing golf clubs at some point over the last 40 years. They've been whittled down, and I think now in Japan, the number throughout Japan is probably somewhere 6 or 7. And Mr. Miura, is very much a big part of wanting the success of not only the Miura factory, but the other factories within the area to continue to have and evolve and have success. So there's a pride in the manufacturing that happens in Japan with respect to forged clubs, and Mr. Miura, the Miura family, want that to continue. So if he's successful, what he hopes is that all the other factories can be successful. And with respect to Eric Anders Lang, that was a trip that was a trip and a video that was probably 5 years in the making. Eric and I were always in contact with one another. We finally were able to link up schedules, and having him there was truly amazing. I think for him, you'll find, I think that video on Adventures in Golf is one of the most views of anything he's done. He was able to get a drone at that time within the factory, so there's some perspective that no one had seen at that time, and it was truly a magical couple of days or 3 days for not only the Miura family, but also I think for Eric and his team.
For sure. One thing on that video I thought was super cool was when he was swinging in front of Mr. Miura, and he was being fit without a TrackMan or anything. They were going off sound, and just him watching his swing. It was incredible to see. I mean, we'll hit on a TrackMan and try to dissect the different analytics and whatnot. And he didn't even need any of it.
That was just a case of master and apprentice right there, and just letting the master kind of show why he's the master. You know what I mean? Years of experience, and his ears are a tool in itself. So
100%.
Seen it countless times. Was lucky enough to get to Korea in 2011. KJ Choi won the Players Championship playing Miura irons, and we went on a visit to see him shortly thereafter. And the same thing, Mr. Miura was on his haunches, first from behind, watching ball flight, then right next to him as he's hitting balls, looking at divot pattern, looking and listening to ball contact, how all those sensory things that were able to help him get more out of that fitting process. Asked him to stand a little closer to the ball, further away from the ball, trying to get that contact in the spot where the center of gravity was. And it's something to see for sure. And that's not to say, however, though, that the Miura family hasn't embraced modern technology, but something to be said. And I think we all experience to some degree, if we're golfing, when you're out there and you hit that you know, 130-yard shot, and the guys you're playing with say, hey, that sounded good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, right.
Or that felt good, or, you know, and those types of things can reinforce what a good shot will feel like. And that's what we're trying to reproduce all the time.
Definitely.
Yeah, and while we're on the topic too of players using Miura, as KJ Choi did, I believe Abraham Answer gamed the TC 201s as well as the wedges from Miura.
Yeah, Abe has played Miura for a long time. I mean, he played them. One of our dealers in Texas, Gennaro Del Villa, was friends with him while he was attending university. Had success with Miura irons, turned professional, and rightly so, was assigned an equipment contract with another manufacturer. But to Abraham's credit, he decided or felt early along that you know, the equipment was going to make his, you know, that's where he was going to gain success. So he wanted to play the best equipment, his words, and he's been with Miura for many, many years. So certainly most recently, the TC 201s, the Miura family makes irons for him, customized with his logo in the head. So, you know, when you see someone like that, who is such a good ball striker, working the ball, a real magical wedge game, you know, we take pride in that fact, and we, you know, we share in his success. But one thing I think that's really important, you know, when talking about tour use and tour success, is to understand that there's only one way Miura irons are manufactured. Whether you play on tour or whether you play once a week or once every 2 months, the irons that you play from Miura are the same ones the professionals played, made to the same specifications, same factory. There's no question that you're getting tour quality equipment. And I think that's a talking point, you know, always worth getting out there.
Oh, 100%. I
Yeah.
mean, you look at any top, like not any big manufacturer has levels to their irons. They could have the same model with 3 different variants, and one, you know, a tour player wouldn't even look at.
Right.
And it is very cool to see that Miura has just that one standard level of the best, and that's what they're trying to always put out and maintain.
Yeah. I was gonna
It's very cool.
say, I'm not sure if it was in the video, the Eric Anders Lang video or not. But I heard Mr. Miura saying, someone asked him, like, you know, what's your favorite iron that you make? And he said, I don't want to use the word favorite. They're all very good. You know what I mean? And that just kind of gives, you know, us the impression that it's like, wow, even if like there's a different trim model or whatever it is, they're all well thought out. The design is well thought out. They're all handmade. There's no, like you just said, there's no discrepancies. You know, they're all super high quality.
There's a word in Japanese called kaizen, spelled Kaizen or Zen, and essentially it means the never-ending search for perfection. So, you know, regardless of the iron that was made today, they're going to try and improve on it for tomorrow or the next year or the year after that. So always trying to, you know, produce the best product they can. I think one of the unique I had many obviously conversations with Mr. Miura, but one of the ones that resonates with me was his declaration that we make clubs to perform first and sell second. And I think that's an easy statement to get lost in, but essentially he wants to continue to make the best possible product he can. And if he does that, then people will discover who Miura is, and people will, you know, be able to, you know, purchase and play his irons. So the facts remain that, you know, as we've talked about over the course of the last few minutes, you've got a family business who's taking pride in everything that comes out of that factory, always searching to give you something better. And, you know, our product lines, our specific models stay in the lineup for 4 years. So it's not even a case of every year trying to, sell the next or the greatest version of it. We're only going to make changes to irons when we can improve on what we already have. And that's something that I think is really special as well.
Yeah, I think the one thing too to hit on is for the design aspect of all the clubs. I think keeping the design minimalistic as you guys do and letting the angles and the actual artistry of the club do the talking in a sense, and not just like throwing a bunch of color on there with the newest, latest line of clubs, which a lot of top manufacturers will do. You guys really let the iron and the angles. It kind of reminds me of like luxury cars and stuff like that, if you know what I mean, where it's these cuts and these contours and like the design that goes into it that really helps kind of sell it, if that makes sense.
When you look at it, you can just tell it's something different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? For sure.
And there's subtleties within design that I think, we love to communicate and talk with about to our dealers, distributors, and customers. What that top line looks like, how the club head itself frames the ball, the transition between short, middle, and long irons, which we take for granted, but in the case, for example, in most sets from a 7 to an 8 iron, the club head takes on a different shape. Well, we've had many pros. One of the first that I dealt with was Raymond Floyd, who said he'd never seen a set of irons that transitioned as smoothly from short to middle to long. So, it's a small point, but if you have confidence in your 8 iron and similar confidence in your 5 iron, that really speaks to, how you're going to play. And it's not just as easy as changing the loft on the club. There's a lot that goes into that. One of the I think subtle things that the Miura designs do is that area from between the hosel and the top line, and how special attention to how that transition happens there can give the appearance of more offset or less offset. It flows evenly into the top line, which can be intimidating in some respects, but it also works with the look that you get on the grooves in the club, and allows for easy alignment, confident alignment. So the process itself obviously is really important, but those subtle design features in terms of how the club looks often go with or are often perceived as not being necessarily too important, but they certainly deliver a confidence to a golfer that
100%.
contributes to good play.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to touch on quick that you mentioned is like, you said you don't come out with a new iron every year just to try to sell something. You know what I mean? You fix something only if it needs to be fixed. You're focused solely on the performance of the club first, and then, like you said, selling it second. You're not just adding like Joe even touched on, a new color, a new design just to try to sell more clubs.
Yeah.
You're sticking with what works. You know what I mean? And if you see something that needs to be changed to improve the performance of the iron, you will. You know what I mean? But I thought that was really cool, and it's cool to know, as like the customer base. It's almost comforting to know that you're not just trying to sell more clubs. You know what I mean? You're trying to make the best product.
Yeah, and I mean that I think that goes without saying. I mean, listen, we're not naive enough to think that that the marketing side of any manufacturing industry is important, and that being the case, business is business, and we want to sell lots of golf clubs, but we also recognize that the old adage of not wanting to throw the baby out with the bathwater. When you have a good product, that's perfect in terms of keeping it. Our MB 101 blade is probably the best example in our line now. It's going to be a legacy model, and how do you improve on that? Well, we're not really going to improve on it, so it will stay there. You can do slight modifications, but if you're playing a set of blades from 5 years ago, just to come out with something that has a slightly different look to it but still performs the same, I don't think necessarily serves anybody's best interest. So we've really been working on understanding that there's two types of golfers. I think those that are improving and those that don't get the chance to practice as much as they can. And we're proud of the fact that we have a lineup within, or club heads within our lineup, that allow you to move up and down. The blade player might need a little more time. He loves his blades, but he's not practicing as much. Well, he might transition to the MC 502 or the TC 201. And the golfer that's playing the PI 401 has noticed great improvement and now is stepping into the CB 302 or, the TC 201. So they know that that club will be in that lineup, and anything that they can and are able to play is something that will perform to expectation for a number of years.
Yeah, and I think it's also cool that when you're on the website, you can select the specific club that you want from each model. So in theory, you could even build your own custom little combo set that tailors to your game, which a lot of people don't offer. And that's it's huge, really, because you could improve a lot of things. I would go with more of like the cavity game improvement for my longer irons, where a lot of people are going to struggle. And then I would go with that thinner top line, more bladey for 7, 8, 9P, the clubs that you're not going to have as big of a range when it comes to where you're striking the ball on the face.
Yeah, just more confidence, right? And
100%.
We've dealt with that in a number of ways. We've seen, guys that fill in their set and they might have a cavity back iron 4, 5, 6, and then blades 7 to pitch, and then they go, "Wow, I'm hitting my 7 so good. I've got a 6 and a cavity back, but I want to get a 6 blade now." So they just buy the single club, and their set moves around over the year. We've one of the great calls that I've had in recent years was from a retired golfer, a guy who was a really good player in his day. He just has always loved the look of a blade iron. He says, "I'm a 15 handicap now, but," he says, "I still love the look of a blade iron." And his set was 7, 8, 9 pitching wedge in the blade and hybrid clubs and woods the rest of the way up. Well, we offer that opportunity. You can now get a lightweight graphite shaft in with a blade iron that fits his eye. And he says, "I hit my 7 iron to 125 yards, but I get to play the blade. I like the looks of it when I, put it down there." He says, I go to the golf course, or everybody wants to put me in a big or an oversized head. He says, "No, I only going to hit my irons from 125 in, but I want to play a blade iron." He knew Miura and had played Miura in the past. So, what a great story that you have that option to customize your set.
Yeah,
That's
for
awesome.
sure. That is awesome.
Yeah, I like that, playing your own shot. You know what I mean? Like you got
sure.
like that's all. It's getting off track a little bit, but that's kind of a big thing with golf is playing the shot that you're comfortable with, not necessarily the shot that you think would be the right shot to play, but like what's going to be right for you, what's going to work out for you. You know what I mean? So if he likes looking down on a blade and hitting them from 130 in and that's it, then it works.
Do what's
for him.
fun for
you know
you.
what I mean? Exactly. You're out there to have fun first and foremost.
I mean, there's a theory out there about fitting, based on launch technology. People want to suggest perhaps that going brand agnostic and just being able to look at the data and decide that's what I want or that's the best for me. I think that's probably very that's a sound strategy for the most part. But at the end of the day, you have to, every time you pull a club and look down at it, it's got to make you feel good. Right. And if it doesn't look good, it could perform well, but you still want something that looks good and feels good to you. So we know that we have a big advantage in that regard based on, as how aesthetically pleasing Miura irons are. So we hope that, our customers and if you've never hit a Miura club or never seen a Miura club, you take the time to have a look at them and understand that there's an option or a model for you, regardless, whether you're, a high school golfer, college golfer, everyday, mid handicap, high handicap player. We've got something for you, and we know that you're going to like the looks of it when you put it down at address.
For sure. And I think that translates to a lot to the putter lines that you guys offer, in the sense of you guys have the KM1, the KM2, and now the KM3. I believe the KM1 and 2 were the original releases for that line. KM1 being more rounded, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
KM2 being a triple sole with more squared and like angled cuts on it. And the KM3 having your more flow neck instead of an arm lock. Or I don't know if it would be called an arm lock or just like that L shape.
Yeah.
But it's just the same type of thing. You got options. You got what's comfortable for you. You have something that you know you're going to look down at and be confident in. And there's a reason why those 3 putters look different and have different necks and everything. They're going to fit to you and your stroke and your putter. And a lot of people don't realize it's really hard to get straight back, straight through on a putter. Almost everyone has a little bit of arc to it. And that's when fitting yourself for a putter comes into play. And it's definitely worth it with a Miura putter, especially because you're going to get that Japanese stainless steel, super deep mill for that soft feel that you're going for. And also that noise. I don't know if when you're putting, I don't like a super tingy putt. I kind of want that noise that you're going to get from a super deep mill.
Definitely.
Yeah. And I think that speaks to what we talked about earlier with the irons, is that, you know, solid is what we're looking for. Not necessarily soft, but solid.
For sure.
And how it sounds when you strike an iron, how it sounds when you strike a putt. Those are important aspects of the sensory side of the game, right? So, yeah, our putters, you know, we recognize that irons and wedges are our core competency, but putters have always been a passion, specifically of Miura's son, Shinye, has an idea that, you know, there is a little synergy between the scoring clubs that you have, the wedges and the putter. So, you know, we tend to focus on, you know, the more traditional look, which I think is fine. You know, if you're, you know, obviously the Ping Answer, you know, the Scotty Newport are pretty much, you know, what would be the standards for blade putters, which fit in line with, you know, what we've had come up with and what we've designed. Again, to your point, using the Japanese stainless steel, the finest in materials will, in working with that, ensure that you're going to be able to deliver an end product that meets those standards or our standards. So, you know, I encourage, you know, if you're near a dealer, or if you know what you like, there's no question that our putters, you know, stand the test of time in terms of quality and performance. And thank you for bringing it up, because it's something that isn't always associated with the Miura name.
Yeah. And speaking, well, we're on the topic of the putters as well, hearing that Shinye was kind of front running those projects for the putters as it's a passion of his. Was he involved in the project for the KM007 back in like 2013 time? It's kind of like that mid mallet shape that you guys would have done.
Yeah. And it's funny that you mentioned that, like that design, you know, I don't want to say that it will never make a comeback, because, you know, we're always looking to improve on what we had. But yeah, that was a Shinye Miura design. Mr. Miura also had the 008, which was the smaller blade putter.
Yeah.
And spoke to, you know, what they were getting in terms of feedback from the players that and dealers, customers around the world. They love to hear the feedback. And that mallet putter, today, I often, you know, get the emails or correspondence from customers who still gain that particular model. And on the secondary market, those older Miura putters are still commanding a high price, so it must speak to the quality and demand that they still have.
Definitely.
I've seen that 007 putter referred to as the James Bond of putters. And I don't know if it has to do with the 007 or if it's because the putter itself is so badass. That's probably what James Bond would be using if he was playing.
Love that.
I was gonna say it's got a fantastic name. Come on, the
yeah, it doesn't
007. That's awesome.
So just to kind of have a couple questions for you too. What's something about Miura that you think the average customer or average golfer who already knows about Miura might not know?
Oh,
Obviously, we've touched on a lot of stuff. I don't know if there's anything you think we might
So,
have to be able to add into that.
I feel like
but-
there's so many little things, you know, about the company.
here's a
there.
little tidbit. As I mentioned off the stop, that Mr. Miura still occupies the #1 chair on the grinding line. So if you see tours of our factory on our website or on our social media posts, or if you look at that Eric Anders Lang video on Adventures of Golf, you'll see Mr. Miura sitting in and at the #1 chair. That chair, there's only been 3 individuals who have grinded a club on that chair. Obviously, #1 was Mr. Miura. #2 was a famous Japanese golfer named Isao Aoki. And #3 was Jack Nicklaus. And
Wow.
Mr. Miura still to this day says that one of the best days of his life was the day that Jack visited the Miura factory. And you can imagine seeing those 2 icons talking equipment. It would have been a special day.
Yeah. Am I mistaken, or didn't Miura provide like the anniversary of Jack? They did some Golden Bear club for Jack Nicklaus, I believe.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. I saw that a while ago. It's really cool.
Yeah, we had a collaboration with Jack and the Nicklaus companies, in which a blade iron, a limited production blade iron was produced. The Jack had looked to have an iron look a certain way. He liked to have the sweet spot or center of gravity a little bit more to the middle of the club, or in the middle of the club. Whereas most forged clubs, the sweet spot is a little bit towards the hosel or heel. So he liked it that way. Mr. Miura was able to use what Jack liked and some design concepts to produce exactly what he liked. And the result was just a stunning iron in terms of the Golden Bear on that Nicklaus name. And the collaboration with Jack was really, really successful for us, and something that we take, or Mr. Miura took a lot of pride in. So
That's amazing. That's amazing to hear.
It's cool to hear too that like somebody is prolific in the space as Mr. Miura still gets excited to talk to somebody like Jack Nicklaus and work on a club like that. Cause I mean, for anybody, that's got to be awesome. Like lifetime dream type of stuff.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. And Mr. Miura is such a humble man. He would still be, somewhat blown away by the attention that he's now receiving worldwide, or that the factory is receiving from, customers all over the world. So, that humility, I think, extends through, our team at Miura, and something that we're really proud of. That, as I mentioned at the beginning, that we get to wake up every day and sell the greatest forged iron in the world in our mind.
Definitely.
I don't think it's just your mind either.
I
I
was
think a
gonna
lot
say.
of the minds of golfers in this world believe that Miura is indeed bringing the best of the best to the game. So
I definitely want to bring up, like we have this podcast, we talk to certain people from the golf industry. We've been talking to a lot of different people. The people who we've asked like what their favorite irons are, what the best, the top of the line irons are, it's Miura. They all say Miura. You know what I mean? So I definitely wanted to bring that up. Is that everyone we've talked to who we've asked, like, oh, what do you like for your irons? What are the top quality? They all point to you guys for sure.
Yeah, and that's obviously earned, right? You got to continue to deliver. As I said to you, clubs that perform first and sell second. Obviously there's lots of great designers and manufacturers out there. So Mr. Miura would be the first one to tell you that the success of manufacturing and golf clubs. If the industry's strong, we're all going to be strong. But to your point, the fact that somebody might not think Miura is suited to them, or may not like the look of a certain club, but there's no disputing that the manufacturing process is top of the line. And you made reference to luxury cars. I think that's a good analogy. I think that there's also a reference to watches, and whether you want to look at Breitling or Rolex or whatever the case may be. There's something to be said when, you show up at the course and you take your clubs out of your car and at the bag drop, and they see that they're Miuras, and they look at you and they give you a little nod like, okay,
100%.
Exactly. That you hit the nail on the head with the whole taking the clubs out of the bag. If someone sees Miura, they know for sure.
This little interesting anecdote. This was about 4 or 5 years ago. Well, maybe a little even longer, 6 or 7 years ago. And one of our young professionals that was at Q School on Corn Ferry Tour, he got hooked up on his first round, and they got up to the first tee, and there's a threesome, and they introduced each other, and the two of them looked in each other's bags, and they both had Miura, didn't know each other, but at that time we didn't have as big a footprint, certainly in terms of professional golf. And the young guy subsequently called me back. He says, it was the greatest feeling. I got to that first tee. We looked at each other's bag. We looked up and we just smiled at each other. Or, from our point of view, what a great little story. No words, but here's these two guys trying to get to a point where they're going to make golf their living, and they both knew that they each other had the best equipment. So
definitely.
Yeah, it's cool because you figure most of the time those guys, they're competing against each other. You might not think it's always as friendly as it could be, but it's kind of one of those like feel good just introductory moments where you're like, oh yeah, I remember that. And they'll always remember that for as long as they know each other. So it's cool.
Definitely.
One other thing that I wanted to hit on just from years of research with Miura and knowing about the company, the passing point hybrids that you did also around 2013, 2015 times with like the Miura passing point. What's the story behind those? And will we ever see another Miura hybrid in a sense, or is that something that you guys are not really working on?
No, I mean, it's part of discussions, ongoing discussions, like, but again, our core competency, irons, wedges, putters. The hybrids were successful. That part of the equipment industry, be it hybrids, fairway woods, drivers, is extremely competitive. The technology and design of such, have, really, taken the game golf to another level. I will say to you that that we are giving, and looking to see if we can enter into that hybrid market. Golf has evolved, certainly. A set of irons used to be 3 through pitching wedge. Now probably your standard set is more 5 through pitching wedge. So gone from 8 irons down to 6 irons. So as a company, how do I get back in at the top end of your clubs? Certainly combo sets, and, putting in our case, PI 401, little larger head, little hotter face, putting in a 4 and 5 iron at the top of, a set of irons that can work. And we'll always give consideration and continue to give consideration as into, a hybrid or driving iron, that type of equipment. That being said, we won't introduce something just for the sake of introducing it. It will have to meet or be to the standards that Miura has established. It'll have to sound like a Miura. It'll have to feel like a Miura. So
going back to performance over sales, definitely. You want to make sure you're putting out a Miura product. You know what I mean? You're not just going to put something out because you think the market's ready for it. You think the market wants it. Like you said, the game of golf is kind of changing now. You know what I mean? You don't want to put something out just for the sake of it. You want to put out a product up to your standards.
100%.
Definitely.
Yeah. And while one last kind of topic to hit on is the apparel and accessory game involved with Miura as well. Although any of that forged stainless steel is going to be your bread and butter and where you guys really shine, per se, as you guys like to put it, the apparel itself, like as the viewers are going to see you're wearing right now, it's clean, dude. Like it's stuff that you're going to want to wear and you're going to want to rock. And there's little tidbits that they do too for Japanese culture with like the rising sun on your hoodie. I mean, the Himeji castle on the side of the light stand bags. There's little tidbits that as you start diving deeper and deeper into Miura, you're gonna discover for yourself, and it just kind of helps you grow that appreciation for the brand and what they're doing for not only golf but Japanese culture, and just like kind of putting forth that there is other big brands out there that you can go to and get the top of the line, best of the best. Like, this is the best all around: apparel, accessories, clubs, whole 9 yards.
Yeah, we want to align ourselves with good partners. I mean, you look now at lifestyle brands that are in the marketplace. I mean, we've had some great collaborations. We had a collaboration with Link Soul, which was really special, and obviously big fans of their clothing lineup. With respect to Miura, we're trying to be that company that respects, whomever is playing our club. So, polos, very classic, good looking polos that come in there. But we see that the lifestyle brands and clothing that is out there, be it hoodies, t-shirts, hats, bags, as you said, well, we want them to be able to stand on their own. I ran into a gentleman on the way to the PGA show last week, wearing as you mentioned, the riser setting sun Miura had that black hoodie on, and I wasn't wearing anything brand. I went up to him and said, "I like your hoodie. Do you play Miura irons?" And he goes, he was sort of dumbfounded a little bit. Subsequently found out that his wife got him the hoodie, but he doesn't even play golf.
Oh, wow.
So, I think if you can, hit it on those levels and appeal to the non-golfer as well, that you're doing something right, that's all credit to our design team and those who, are able to measure, some sort of balance between appealing to the golfers and appealing to the non-golfers as well.
I was gonna say, that's awesome. The wife bought it not even knowing it was a golf thing, just like the design. That must be an amazing feeling,
That his buddy's a golfer, and probably, by extension, he was probably a Miura guy, but he had seen him wearing the hoodie, and
awesome.
Oh, my husband would love that, and ended up getting it for him. So that was a great story.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. It's got to be a good feeling too. It just shows the work you're putting in, and that the team puts in is really paying off. And the fact that a golf brand apparel appealed to a non-golfer, like that's the ultimate goal for somebody making clothes within their industry, is hit every market, not just my niche. So
yeah, agreed. And the stay, you can stay in your lane with respect to some things, but I have a really good friend who, we were talking about demographics at one point in time. Who's your customer? And he basically said to me, we've got to give consideration now in this industry to psychographics, where, it's not just how old you are, how much money you make, how many times a week you play golf. There's lifestyle questions that you have to ask. So, just because someone is new to golf or has been playing golf for 40 years, it's not impossible that they have the same desires in terms of what a golf club could look like, but they may be totally different in terms of what clothing should look like. So appealing to both of those and having the flexibility to go in multiple directions, not overloading. We're never going to be in the clothing business, but if you can make the decisions that appeal to a wide base of consumer, I think you're doing the right thing.
Definitely.
Yeah, 100%.
Definitely. Yeah, I personally stumbled upon the apparel relatively recently, and I was just I don't know if shocked is the right word, but I was so surprised, pleasantly surprised. Like some of the rope hats that you guys have, I'm just thinking of specifically, they're awesome. I'm definitely going to cop one. They're sweet for sure.
I don't know. I think before we get out of here, and one thing we want to hit on, what's in your bag? What's your bag looking like when it comes to all this Miura stuff? What do you like to game? What have you worked through and tried and found that worked for you?
Well, first of all, you told me this was going to be a half-hour interview, so
yeah, went a little long. Got a little carried away.
No, not, hey, I'm all good. My bag. I'm pretty traditional. I just play our tour wedges, and I sound like I'm, you know, apologizing almost, but I love the classic look of our tour wedges, the HB. I do also play our iconic K grind wedges, and sort of they move in and out of the bag. A putter, I'm using the rounded version, as we talked about, the KM 001, so, or the KM1, pardon me. So that's my putter. In my irons, I've got the TC 201s, and at the top end, I play 5 to pitching wedge in the 201s, and at the top end, I have the PI 401 in a 4-iron and a 5-iron. Those two clubs. So if you look at my bag, you'd see 2 5-irons, but the 5-iron in the PI 401 plays like a 4-iron. The 4-iron plays like a 3-iron. So like that.
All got a purpose.
Miura 3-wood in the bag. I don't play a Miura driver, but I play a Callaway driver.
Nice. Yeah, it's always interesting to hear what's in people's bags, especially you know, working for a company like Miura. We definitely wanted to, you know, hear what you were playing for sure.
And I credit to my to the Shaft guys who I've been longtime friends with. I play an Acra iron shaft. Gavin Robertson at True Sports, and I have been friends for over 25 years, and he hooked me up with an iron shaft. I also have Aerotech shafts in my wedges, and my good friend, the late Chris Hillary, was instrumental in getting those in my bag. So I have, I'm lucky to be in this industry. I'm pretty simple in terms of what my needs are. My index is 5.7, and it pretty much stays there. And I'm trying to, you know, take away that there was a saying that if you got into the golf industry, you'd never golf again. But as it turns out, I'm working harder at golfing these days, and definitely getting closer age-wise to shooting my age. I might have to live till I'm 90 before I do it, but that's the goal one day.
Shooting the age is always the goal. I was saying I might have to go to a par 3 course when I'm like 36 and just go hammer it out real quick.
Right.
But
take the W's when you can get them.
100%.
Definitely.
Bill, it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, for sure.
We really appreciate you taking the time to come out and talk to us about Miura and give us that in-depth perspective from somebody who's been with the company for 20 plus years. It was definitely really cool. And I think the viewers are going to gain a lot of knowledge and information about Miura as well, which is going to just play in fact to how good the irons are themselves.
Right. I was going to say, if you can take away anything, it's that it feels like every aspect of Miura is something that you can't get from another company. You know what I mean? Whether it's Mr. Miura himself being part of the manufacturing, or whether it's, you know, the actual proprietary process, the third strike, the, you know, different forging process, you know, down to the apparel. Miura is, you know,
no corners cut.
Line. Right. Exactly. Yeah. No corners cut, all boxes checked. And yeah, seriously, can't thank you enough. I know, you know, my busy schedule and everything, but yeah, seriously.
Let's hope this interview blows up, and then we can come back another time and we'll do it again.
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah, I would love that for sure. All right, Bill.
Thanks for your time today, guys.
Oh, thank you. Really.
All right. Thank you, Bill.